Dylan Tereman, the pick 7. The New York Jets select. What's your prediction? Draft week, baby. Come on, give it to us. Who are we taking?
It's got to be Armand Membu. And I mean, that's not to say that he's my number one choice, but I'm trying to be realistic, trying to also, hit a position of need that's not going to get me kicked off your show. So I would say Armand Membu is probably the pick. There's plenty of names that come to mind: Tyler Warren, Shamar Stewart, Will Campbell, Mason Graham in a perfect world. I don't know if I believe the smoke and mirrors about some of the Texas players that we'll potentially get into that we could take, but I would say Armand Membu right now, 3 days out.
My prediction, I think they will take Tyler Warren, and not just for I didn't know who you were going to say, not for the sake of just picking somebody different. It could be neither. Because, well, I think that if you look at the top 3 names we've been talking about, one of the 2 top tackles, and then Warren, I think Warren is the least likely to be selected before 7, where Campbell is a pretty chalk pick to the Patriots. And I think Membu either could go to the Pats if they view him as just OT1 and don't care about switching him to left tackle. And I think the Raiders could make sense for Membu, even the Jags maybe. So I think he's going to be on the board, and being able to be selected definitely increases your odds of being picked, I would say, is a fair way to look at it mathematically. And just looking at the way their visits tracker has gone, I know it's not a perfect science, but they have met with They have 5 visits with offensive linemen who are projected to go, late day 1, early day 2. So I think it's probably going to be Tyler Warren at 7, and then like Ursery or somebody like that in the second round, which I definitely won't be mad at. I'm an Armand Membu truther, so that's my guy. But I think Tyler Warren is a player that fits a pretty damn pressing, acute need. The Jets, I mean, man, tight end room, respectfully, it might be the worst in the NFL, right? Like in the conversation for it.
No love for Jeremy Ruckert or Stone Smart on this side of the podcast either, which is why I totally get the Tyler Warren pick, and he would be like probably, I mean, I don't know, man. I tried to rank them yesterday, and I get to like 7 players deep, and Tyler Warren's not there yet, So I'm just like so heavily, let's pick a trench guy, but I'm okay with it when you like foil it out that way and explain your points. It would really just put an emphasis on round 2 and 3, as far as how are they going to attack the trenches to my liking and, figure it out that way. Although there is a scenario that I heard, and we can, get into the smoke screens right here. It's not Jets related, but it could have a ripple effect on the NFL insiders, which is like Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, all those guys. They said Shedeur is not out of the question at 3 for the Giants. They assume it's going to be Cam Ward and then Travis Hunter, number 2. But then there's the chance that the Giants pass up on Abdul Carter for Shedeur Sanders. And then they even doubled down and said the Patriots are probably so focused on offense that they would take Will Campbell or Armand Membu over Abdul Carter, which means Abdul Carter would slide to 5. And the Jaguars are one of probably 35 teams in the NFL that are trying to trade down this year. Would you entertain moving up from 7 to 5 if Abdul Carter was there?
Yes. Yeah, I think because that's in the range where it becomes affordable. Yes. Going from 7 to 2, no, it's not even 7 to 3, but 7 to 5. I mean, we can look at the draft trade value chart. You're probably, maybe you're talking about your 3rd round pick and then plus some change. I wouldn't want to give pick 42. I wouldn't designate both of my top 2 picks to Abdul Carter, as good as he is. I just wouldn't do that for any player in this class unless you're talking about Cam Ward, which isn't happening. But let me grab the draft trade value chart. That'd be interesting because, and the Jags might be willing to deal too, because they have Josh Hines-Allen and Travon Walker, who they just picked up his 5th-year option. So edge is definitely not one of their bigger needs. So that's a 200-point gap. And so that would be the Jets' 3rd round pick would cover it by the points. Yeah, man.
And I would even say that they could get something back, like Jacksonville's 6th rounder worth 18 points. And then you're looking at like a 7 to 8 point overpay. I think last year when we traded down one spot with Minnesota for JJ McCarthy. And again, that's a quarterback. So they're paying quote unquote more points. I think it was a difference of 11 points to move up one spot from 11 to 10. So to get 7.5, 8 points out of this trade is still good value to move up 2 points. And it's not like a huge overpay. So I'm cool giving up 7 and 73 to get back 5 and 182. I'd be completely fine with that. And you're getting harder. Absolutely.
Yeah, man, because dude, you have to make sure you're getting a great player. And he, to me, would be as much of a slam dunk as you could hope for in terms of the talent and the positional value. And you have Jermaine, you have Will McDonald. I get that, but dude, just get a great player at a premium position. You could play each of them like 60+% of the reps and just have a deadly, trio off the edge. So I would do it for Abdul Carter if it came to that scenario. That's an interesting one because I can't imagine he'd get past the Raiders. So you probably would have to. I mean, he's probably going number 2 or 3, but in that scenario where the quarterbacks went, the Giants.
There's also the rumor that the Patriots could trade out for Abdul Carter with the Eagles, and they would give up like AJ Brown and some massive haul. I think that was
we're getting crazy
completely. Yeah. But like, could you imagine that? They get all the way up to 4 from 32. So there's going to be a lot of movement if Abdul Carter starts to slip for sure.
Yeah, that would be wild. Well, the Patriots, I definitely think, would want to be on the phone because for them, at least from my perspective, if you just need a tackle, like the difference between Will Campbell, Armand Membu, and Kelvin Banks, if you're comfortable sliding back within the top 10, 11 picks, you're going to get one of those guys and then just get more draft selections. If you're pigeonholed into a position for them, I think definitely they're hoping somebody picks up the phone. But if Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are gone, I don't know who else would be willing to do that. For the Jets, I think a realistic trade back scenario, I don't know about the quarterback because maybe a team wants to jump the Saints, but man, the Steelers, are they really going to spend 2 first-round picks, Hunter or Sanders? Are they man, that's tough because you probably would just say, you know what, we'll just take the quarterback that falls to us in the first round next year when we're picking in the same spot because we're going to lose in the first round like we do every kind of year. They kind of have a ceiling. Well, they have such a high floor, they're going to make the playoffs, but they kind of have a ceiling until they figure out their long-term quarterback solution. But I do think I think Mason Graham could be on the board at 7 because I do think there's a chance that the Jaguars with Liam Cohen fool everybody and go with I like Warren to the Jaguars as a fit. I think the conversation starts there. People will say, "Oh, you can't take a tight end top 5," and it's like, okay, well, the Bears might take him at 10. Is it that big of a difference?
We might take him at 7.
We might take him at 7. The floor is 14. Like, is there that big of a difference once Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter are gone? Is there that big of a difference between like picks 5 and 15 in this draft class? I don't think so. So to me, that's where the conversation starts, and they could, or Genty. So if the Jaguars just say we have this premium asset, we want to use it to help our quarterback, and we have an offensive-minded head coach, and then the Raiders could maybe take Genty if the Jags take Warren or whatever. And I'm looking at the Niners. So to me, like if the Niners, they've been a team that values quality over quantity in general. And if they want to swing a 3rd-round pick or the similar package just talked about coming up to get Carter, if they want to swing that package to move down, I think there's a world in which the Jets could entertain that as well. But it's risky because it could be, Graham, Campbell, Membu, Warren are all gone by 11, so it's dicey. I've done that in a couple mock draft simulators and then ended up like gritting my teeth and just taking Tereman McMillan. I'm like, I don't know if I love that outcome, but it could be a possibility.
Yeah, if you move back any further than 11 with San Francisco, you're really gambling that all those guys are gone. Graham, Campbell, Membu, Warren, and then you are looking at like Matthew Golden versus Teteroa McMillan, and that's not really like the world that I know you and I would love to live in. So maybe it's better to just stay put and pick at 7 at that point. I'll push back. I think Tyler Warren's floor is 22, only if the Jets don't take him and Indy takes Loveland. Then it's like, okay, maybe the Chargers at 22 is the next tight end landing spot, or maybe even Denver at 20. But I would say 22, like comfortably, we should see both of the tight ends gone. But yeah, it's going to be tricky. It's obviously dependent on the first 6 picks. Jacksonville, you mentioned Tyler Warren could be taken there. They're also rumored to take Genty, apparently. And now Travis Etienne is one of the many veteran names on an expiring contract who could be traded in this offseason or potentially early on in the regular season. So if they take Genty at 5 and like Vegas takes Teteroa McMillan at 6, that's almost like a dream come true, in my opinion, where one of those trench guys that I prefer is going to be there. And you're not like, I guess, quote unquote, reaching on a guy like Shamar Stewart, even though I would love him there. But like Membu, Graham, Campbell, one of those guys is most likely there if Warren and Teteroa McMillan or Genty and Teteroa McMillan go before the Jets pick at 7.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. With Warren, I'm definitely fascinated. Like I could see, like you said, a wide range of where he goes. Like how much of it, I'm just wondering how much of his draft stock, at least among fans, is in overreaction to Bowers last year. Because just as a curiosity, not to like beat that to death, not to say the Jets should have taken Bowers or any of that, but just even not from a Jets perspective, from an analyst perspective, because remember last year, I mean, my brother Michael Nani had told me repeatedly in articles that, Kyle Brady and Eric Ebron were going to mug me in an alley if you take a tight end at in the top half of the first round. And now nobody says that this year. Like, no, that's not even a talking point really anymore as much. So if Bowers didn't exist last year and Warren was coming out this year, I think there would be a lot more pushback. I think Bowers kind of snuck in the door, and a little bit too, like Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid kind of popping as rookies the year before. I do think that colleges are starting to feature tight ends more and to where the position isn't as much of a projection, because typically a lot of guys that you look back at tight ends who were drafted in the first round and their final college season, it's like 500-600 yards. It's not these receivers. So it's like, they put up 1,200, 1,300 yards in college and they're going in the first round. But best thing with Warren, like, dude, he put the team on his back. He had historic production at the tight end position. Same thing with Trey McBride. It's like, dude, that's gonna work to some extent. So that's the kind of floor of level of production I see from him. I don't know. Do you want Trey McBride at number 7 overall? Maybe not. But he got paid $20 million a year and he had like 1,100 yards last year. So could be worse. Can you see this on your screen?
I can, yes.
Okay, so this is, it's kind of really small. Let me fix this here.
Full screen, if somebody's watching full screen, they can see it pretty well.
Okay, cool. On StreamYard, it's like this tiny little box for me. Let me actually, let's fix that. There we go. Okay, it looks all right. Now, you tweeted this out and you mentioned the list of players. Adam Schefter dropped the Smokescreen mega report. Believe none of it, but we're going to talk about all of it. And this is what draft week is, baby. We made it here. So these are players who could be traded. Are there any names that are jumping out to you? Will Levis? No. We could start there. Will Levis? No. Any names of the guys on rookie contracts that might be a fit for the Jets you think that Schefter listed here?
Do you happen to follow Bleacher Report Gridiron on Instagram?
No.
They put out a trade package proposal. The Jets get Will Levis and their 4th round selection, which is like,
I saw this. Yeah.
Pick 106 for the Jets to give up Breece Hall. I thought it was absolutely stupid. I clicked away from it as fast as possible. There's not enough ridiculous memes or GIFs in the world to explain how bad that trade would be. So no, I would not want Will Levis. I don't want Treylon Burks either. I haven't been a fan of him, not even in the draft process. Kayvon Thibodeau, man, that's another one. I was an advocate of taking him over Sauce at some point in that, draft process. I ended up coming back to Sauce as my final mock prediction, but Kayvon Thibodeau was graded just as high for me. And if they don't go, say they go offensive line, tight end, and then wide receiver, and they don't start attacking D-line till day 3, maybe you could trade an asset for Kayvon Thibodeau. He's pretty young. He's not really used in the best way, I guess, in the Giants, and they have Brian Burns, so you would assume they get Abdul Carter, and now he's kind of the odd man out. Evan Neal, absolutely not. Jalen Hyatt, absolutely not. Sam Howell, no. Tyree Wilson, no. Greg Newsome is intrigued. Sorry.
Tyree Wilson. Well, Tyree Wilson is like, I hear you saying no, but that seems like kind of the Jets like themselves reclamation projects like Stone Smart or whatever. And he does fit the size profile. I just I want like he probably makes a decent amount of money because he was such a high draft pick. And he hasn't worked out, but I do think that he might be stylistically more what they look for in an edge player than Kayvon, who I did love. I loved Kayvon coming out of that draft, man.
Yeah. And maybe Tyree Wilson, like you would just take Shamar Stewart instead and make everybody happy. Greg Newsome, if they didn't sign Stevens, maybe Greg Newsome would be a good one because he's a solid cornerback. ETN, we talked about being on the block. If they get Genty, I'm okay. Odafe Owe, I mean, not productive edge with just athletic traits from Baltimore, never panned out. I'm okay. Pickens, I'm okay. I feel like that's a lot of drama, and we have to pay him right away. And we're already trying to pay our current wide receiver one. Rashad White, no, we're good on running backs. And Kayshon Boutte, no. I feel like we don't need to trade a small asset on day 3.
None of these bums, besides maybe Kayvon. Traylon Burks has been a massive bust, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people liked him more than Drake London and Chris Olave in that class. Maybe they didn't like him as much as Garrett Wilson, but he was up there as a top 3 wide receiver in that class.
Yeah, I remember talking if we I remember discussing if we take whatever Kayvon at 4 and Sauce at 10, do you trade back up into the first round to get Treylon Burks? I remember he was talked about like that. I think he ended up in the first round, but
he went traded away or something.
I think they picked him with the pick they got from the AJ Brown trade, which is kind of terrible.
Yes, that is exactly what they did.
Yeah, that's no good. Not a lot to love on this list. Kayvon, I don't know if we have to wonder about the culture fit, but he's been a disappointment, but he still has been a productive player. I mean, he obviously won't be one of the top 3 edge players on the roster immediately. So that'd be an interesting one. Schefter also tweeted out that, man, out of nowhere, this was Albert Breer, same situation, whatever. Tweeted out Jameson Williams could be moved. I was like, what the F? And look, the Jets are not in the business of, because for a lot of these players, you'd have to extend them to justify trading for them. Like, you don't want to trade for rentals necessarily. So if you're trading for Jameson Williams, I mean, the Jets, I can't imagine them doing an expensive trade for a receiver that they're going to pay $25+ million and then pay Garrett Wilson $25+ million. And if the Lions are moving on from one of their own draft picks who's been good, that tells you it is non-football related. So I wouldn't want any part of that, but that did come across the interwebs. And of course, Jet fans could not help themselves, man. That is like crack to Jet fans. A wide receiver trade, baby. We eat that up like nothing else, man.
That's a little crack to me there, man, because you just hear the way AG talks about speed at the wide receiver position, and it's like a guy he just had in the building with Jameson Williams. So I'm not saying I'm jumping all over it, but if the price is right, but then again, you're paying 2 wide receivers fairly frequent, back to back, and you're paying them quite a bit of money. So maybe it's not. It's not even about that for me. If it was just the resource allocation, I could get down with it. It just tells me it's a character thing, and I don't know. Sure. I think having 2 highly paid wide receivers before we know if we have a quarterback is just maybe not the best team building, but it would be fun, man. He's very talented. That would be an awesome wide receiver to do it. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will come back if we do that. If we bring in Jameson Williams, and Fields could play tight end, and it solves the tight end issue. You bring back Aaron Rodgers, him and Aaron Glenn make nice. It's all good. It's just a misunderstanding. The title of this should have been "Fixing the Jets," not Smokescreen.
Fixing the Jets.
You just did it.
And we just cooked, man. We're gonna be good.
I see a question real quick. Sorry about
go ahead, grab it. What do you got?
Should we take a shot on Desmond Watson late in the draft? I'm assuming that's that really big defensive lineman / fullback. I think he's from Florida. He's literally 464 pounds.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'm cool. Like if they wanted to do that route, just go get
6'5",
like
449.
6'5". Oh my god,
449,
dude, this is
bro.
absolutely ridiculous. Like if you're gonna actually do that and like try to occupy a interior defensive line / fullback role, just go get a guy like JJ Pegues from Ole Miss, because he did that a lot. You watch Jackson Dart film, and anytime they got into like third and manageable, fourth and manageable, they came out in like some wing T style offense with a fullback / DT standing next to Jackson Dart, and it was very easy, direct snap and go for 4 yards. So no, I'd be okay if they took him as like a UDFA. But no, I don't. I would hope they wouldn't even draft him.
That's where it seems like he's projected to be undrafted. He'll probably get signed, if nothing else, for the
Some people
vibes
give him like
preseason.
50K. Yeah.
Yeah, sell some preseason tickets to unveil Desmond Watson. I mean, that had the second highest player. Like, I don't think there's even a 400-pounder. So he is probably like 75 pounds heavier than the next heaviest guy. That is massive. I mean, he's like, was Mekhi Becton 375? And this guy's like 100 and almost 100 pounds heavier.
Yeah, this dude is like Mekhi Becton plus Tez Johnson. Like it's unreal. Like you'd need to get like 3 gurneys and like 8 extra hands to try to pick this guy up if you went down on the turf.
Dude, imagine being his knees.
Imagine being...
Dude, I would hate to be his knees. Oh, look at it. Oh man, he is. I don't know what I expected to see, but he is massive.
Are you sure you're not looking at a picture of Dayon Walker? No, I'm just kidding. That's a shot at Dayon Walker because he looks pretty sloppy in the midsection too. But no, Desmond Watson is a different breed.
Yeah, this dude is a tank, man. All right.
Nick Shine.
Hey.
What's his niece have to do with it?
His niece? No. His knees. Imagine being his knees. Imagine being his patella tendon. I would hate to be his knees. Yeah, we should.
I think he knew what we were talking about.
I know he's being Nick Shine. What's up, Nick? How's it going?
That's great.
Your show is doing good, man. I catch a lot of on my commute to work, because you stream when I'm in bed. But on my commute to work, I listen to a lot of your shows. It's good stuff, Nick. I hope you're doing well. So the most egregious Smokescreen, man, because we thought we emptied the clip 2 weeks ago when we did like who's not going to be taken by the Jets, but we have to talk about them anyway. And then we just skip
a curveball at us.
Then this guy didn't even make it today. I think it was Schefter again. It was Schefter, Breer, and Todd McShay all within an hour. Were like, hey, Jade Baron to the Jets. And it's like, why would you do that on a holiday weekend? That's not cool. No, dude.
They needed to find a player that would make you finally pick Shamar Stewart instead.
That had to be the goal, because if you are making me take either Shamar Stewart or Jade Baron at number 7, I will crawl through glass to take Shamar Stewart. And Jade Baron is awesome. He is awesome. But come on, let's be serious, man. You're going to take a corner and move him to safety because that's the only spot we have to play for him. Really, he would do what Michael Carter does. Like that's his. I think he's a nickel. I think he's Trent McDuffie, a little bit of Brian Burns, maybe. Aaron Glenn would love him. He like
Brian Burns.
Yeah, Brian Branch rather. Yeah, man. If the Jets were like picking at 23 and they didn't have Michael Carter, hell yeah, I'm sold on the fit. I'm sold on the talent. First round player, love it, but not at 7 with the needs that this team has. No, you cannot take a corner, convert him to safety at pick number 7 when you have, respectively, Stone Smart and Josh Reynolds and Chooks Orokafor ready to play premium positions. Can't do it.
No, I don't think so either. And like, even if you're exercising the 5th year on Sauce in time, according to Darren Muji, it's got to happen by like the 3rd of May. So like he says we have time. It's like 10 days to really make the decision. So the decision's been made. Sauce is going to get his 20 mil. Probably an extension on top of that. And then you have Michael Carter making like 11 mil, almost 12 mil a season, I think it is. So like, yeah, unless you're planning on moving your new $12 million a year corner in Stevens out to safety, which I don't think they would, And yeah, it's like, where do you put Jade Baron? Maybe that Brian Branch role would suffice, but again, it's like now you have like almost an embarrassment of riches. And at this point, like, should we have just kept DJ Reed? I know he probably didn't want to be back, but it's just like you're going about the cornerback position in a way that I just didn't see. I didn't predict with the team building aspect of Aaron Glenn. I figured he would, like some of the day 3 guys on our roster currently, like Quantez or JBC, even Isaiah Oliver, and like use those guys before trying to go use another premium asset on defense, because I would prefer you use more of your premium assets on offense or defensive line specifically, instead of some of these other positions like corner and safety, and then, use your defensive pedigree and your defensive experience throughout the entire coaching staff and develop some of these guys on day 2 and day 3 on the back end, because I feel like we need more day 3 guys that stick out. And I would just lean defense at that point based on the coaching staff. And I would give the offensive guys the more talented premium upside players at the top of the draft.
I'd agree with that. And again, you're trying to resurrect Justin Fields' career. And let's be honest, like if the Jets didn't add a pass catcher within one of their first 2, minimum like 3 selections, right? Which, like, I guess if they went Membu, like Talik Williams, and then they have to take a pass catcher by their 3rd pick. But if they didn't really do that, like let's say like only one of their first 4 picks is a pass catcher and it's not in rounds 1 or 2. Yeah, if you take Armand Membu, you're giving Justin Fields the best offensive line he's ever had, which is definitely an advantage. He does struggle with pressure management. Like it's so interesting to look back at. I know we try to be hopeful before the season. Fans and content people like who are mostly just Jet fans anyway. But I remember heading into that first season with Aaron Rodgers before he went down, and the offensive line was kind of sucking. And I remember just pointing that out, like, hey, the offensive line maybe not looking so good in preseason training camp. And people were like, well, it's Aaron Rodgers. He gets rid of the ball so fast. He could see a blitz coming. He's got the best brain of quarterback or whatever. And then like he's injured and limping around and now he's gone. And people are like, well, the offensive line was freaking horrible. And it's like, yeah. And then and now it's Justin Fields. It's like, well, you have a mobile quarterback. You can have Dylan Tereman play right tackle. You have a mobile quarterback. It's like, dude, Justin Fields has really struggles with pressure management for the opposite reason of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was injured and couldn't move away from it. Justin Fields is athletic and has escapability, but it's just the awareness. It's like the mental part of the game of Fields just hasn't clicked yet. He sacks himself all the time. So if you think that Fields is some like offensive line immune quarterback like Tua, who is just back foot and the ball's out, that is just simply not the case. So that would be a big help for him. And if Tanner Engstrand is just mid, he'll be better than any offensive coach that Justin Fields has had. But again, if they don't make significant investments in the passing game weapons, like it would be worse than Pittsburgh's weapons last year and worse than what he had once DJ Moore landed in Chicago. So if you're going to try to resurrect his career, you should probably at least make an attempt to make his weapons as good, if not the best he's ever had. And let's do that with 2 of the first 4 picks, man. Two of the first 4 picks, I think, should be pass catchers, a wide receiver and a tight end, whatever order you want to do it. I kind of like going Membu and then going pass catcher back to back in rounds 2 and 3. I kind of like the way that shakes out. Maybe Jaden Higgins and then Terrence Ferguson or Mason Taylor and then Kyle Williams. But that's kind of my offense, early defense laid out. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think, and I have some scenarios laid out that I wanted you to choose from, but I feel like you got to go offense and defensive line in rounds 1 or 2, and you probably have to go pass catcher in rounds 2, 3, 4 in some of those orders. So like offensive line, defensive line, tight end, wide receiver are my top 4. I put them in a bunch of different orders for different scenarios for you. So, all right, pick a number, 1, 2, or 3. It's going to be a little blind. Do you really hate Darius Alexander before we get into this? Do you actually hate him?
No, it's a bit because I actually am like agnostic towards him, but Dom loves him. And I haven't watched his film because Dom is like a draft analyst. So, but he's Toledo, right? The Toledo defensive interior player. Isn't he like 27 years old?
He is Milton Williams 2.0. I hope the Eagles take him at 32 because then I'll be proved right in every, prediction about him that I've made.
I'll say this about the defensive interior in general. I think if the Jets are going to get a quality starter at pick 42, regardless of need or preference, defensive interior is probably the spot to pick from. I think there's going to be some, whether it's Derek Harmon is there or Darius Alexander or Omar Norman Lott, like there's some dudes. Yeah, Tyleek, all kinds of styles. So there's going to be some dudes there.
All right.
Anyway, give me your scenarios.
Scenarios 1, 2, or 3. I want you to pick because they all start off differently. 1, 2, or 3. Blindly pick.
Oh, okay, 2.
All right, 2. Okay, this is the perfect one for you. Membu, Tyleek, Terrence Ferguson, Dante Thornton. I'd assume that's going to be high up for you. So we'll go scenario 3 because this is probably your least favorite, but I think the best rounds 2, 3, 4. Shamar Stewart, Ariante Ursary, Jalen Knoll, Gunnar Helm. All right. And then scenario 1, Warren, Higgins, Alfred Collins, Charles Grant.
Scenario 1, the last one you mentioned.
Yeah.
I would take, I mean, of the 3, because I think the first round pick is such a, well, okay. So what was the one with Membu, Tyleek? How did that finish?
Terrence Ferguson, Dante Thornton.
I would take that one. I knew
you were going to take that one. I knew you were going to take that one.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I don't love, but at least you did double dip at pass catcher there. And to me, like, okay.
I tried doing all of them, but at different points, because I think that's important. It's like if you don't attack pass catcher till round 3, you get Jalen Noel and Gunnar Helm. Whereas if you go right away, you could get Tyler Warren, Jaden Higgins.
That's nice, man. That Warren and Higgins is nice, but I think the totality of like Membu and Tyleek, I just think would be Tyleek changes your front. He changes your defensive front right away, and I just think he is very as bust proof as you can get. Like what he's going to do. He's going to be Devondre Sweat. Now, I will. Yeah, man, who I think fell last year a little bit because I think he had a little off the field issue, but he went to Tennessee and it was like, oh, our defensive line is freaking different now because of this day 2 big ass dude we just took, and he'll never have more than 5 sacks, but it won't matter.
If you're an advocate for Kenneth Grant, in a trade down scenario, you should definitely be advocating for Tyleek Williams because he's not like a full version of Kenneth Grant, but he's like that second round value version of Kenneth Grant where they both pop with the penetration. They can win within the first 2-3 steps of the rep. They can be good against the run. It's not like they're only run players too. So I think their versatility is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think Grant definitely has a much quicker first step as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
But Tyleek is just you'll see where he just holds up as a 2-gapper, like a center and a guard, just with each arm, and just doesn't move. And then just sits on the running back. He just completely would. And so in round 2, man, that's nice. But with even with wide receiver, like, okay, there's a couple nightmare scenarios in this draft class. Like if the Jets don't address tight end relatively early, I think we're going to be in for some trouble. And then we might have to make a desperation trade for like Dallas Goedert or something like that, which I don't want to do. Right tackle, you'd like to come away within the first 3 picks to get a starter. But honestly, wide receiver, especially if they draft tight end early, like if they draft Tyler Warren and they don't come away with a wide receiver until like the 5th round, I could be sold on a draft class where that happens. And I feel okay about the draft class just because of how much volume Garrett Wilson, Tyler Warren, Breece Hall are going to get, plus Fields running it, plus how heavy of a run team we're going to get. Like throw 300 400 targets to Garrett Wilson, Tyler Warren, and Breece Hall. Throw 150 passes each to Garrett and Warren, and throw 100 passes to Breece Hall. 400. There's 400 of your passes right there.
And how many is Justin Fields actually going to throw? I mean, Rodgers threw 600 in like the highest passing offense last year, so like it's probably not going to eclipse 500. Like it's going to be relatively low comparatively.
Right. And those numbers are probably high, but you get the point I'm making, because then at that point, like Josh Reynolds and Lazard and Corley are really role players. Now, if one of Warren or Garrett gets injured, you're fucked. But we're not. That's going to be that's going to be the case no matter
with a lot
what.
of teams. Yes.
Like it just is what it is.
I think it comes down to 4 players for me, and like this is where the round one, like you've really got to hit on round 1 because then it becomes even more crucial in rounds 2 or 3. 4 current players on the team that look like they're slated to play a lot of reps: Jeremy Ruckert, Chuks Okorafor, Josh Reynolds, and Michael Clemens. I kind of put them in an order of who I want to see on the field least, and Michael Clemens comes out number 1 every time. So that, to me, says that
who are the guys again? Michael Clemens and who else?
Jeremy Ruckert, Chuks Okorafor,
oh God,
Josh Reynolds, and Michael Clemens. Michael Clemens still turns out to be the worst one. So like I heard somebody say double dip on the defensive line, and you and I have talked about that for the Jets, even pre-free agency when they didn't really attack defensive line. I'm cool with 2 out of the first 3, 2 out of the first 4 rounds going defensive line to double up because Michael Clemens is not a guy I want to see on the field. And like if you get to like round 3 or 4 and you haven't taken a tight end, I still think that guy is still going to be better than Jeremy Ruckert. If you take a Charles Grant on late day 2 or an Ozzie Trapillo on day 2, it's probably still going to be better than a Okorafor. And I mean, Josh Reynolds, I don't really care to replace, not from a saying like I think he's going to be fine for the Jets, but I just don't know how they prioritize wide receiver 2 other than trying to find somebody with speed. So to me, I could wait the longest on wide receiver and tight end. I want to get the trenches so we don't have to see Chuks and Michael Clemens.
Yeah, I would probably put honestly, I would probably put tight end as a bigger need than right tackle, not because I necessarily think, not necessarily because I think that Ruckert or Okafor, one of them is so much better than the other, but just because the offensive line does have 4 decent starters and I kind of view it as a unit. My preference for Membu is just positional value, and I think he's really freaking good. I think that gets lost in the conversation because every year we just argue about positions. Take the tackle, take the tight end. We need this. Malachi Corley is going to jump out of your closet at 3 a.m. if you don't take all that stuff. And it's like, dude, like you take players, not positions. That's why last year it's like, are you team offensive line or are you team weapon? I'm like, it depends, man. I'll take Joe Alt over Brock Bowers. I'm not taking Talisi Fuongo over Brock Bowers. So it depends on the prospect. Like Armand Membu, to me, to convince me he's not a good pick for the Jets, you'd have to convince me he's not a really good offensive line prospect. And nobody even seems to make that case. Like nobody even tries to make that argument. So it's like, okay, well then that's my guy until that's my guy. And because that's how the NFL works, man. If you're a good tackle, you're going to go top 10. And if you have a place for one, you take him and it's a good pick. But I mean, well, how about this? What about Eric Watts or McGregor? Any love for any of those guys that make you feel less worried about Clemens, or are they just completely still too unknown?
Yeah, I think they're still too unknown. We saw what they did to defensive tackle, and I'm not saying they hate Leonard Taylor III, but I would have put Leonard Taylor III above either of those edge guys, in my opinion, as far as I would like to see this guy get more snaps in 2025. Maybe they feel differently. I think Eric Watts is more of the size profile that they would go for, I think, because he's more like that thicker, defensive end type. But McGregor, I mean, I feel like he flashed more than Watts did last year. Maybe I'm completely wrong or just misremembering the minimal reps that they took. But no, I don't think they're the needle movers for me to say I'm okay at edge. Like how late would you attack edge? Because I'm looking at it like, obviously I'm looking at Shamar, but that's rare. But like I don't know if I like Mike Green even because he's so small. I mean, he plays bigger than like 245 or 248, whatever he weighed in at, but like that's so close to Will McDonald's size that I feel like they need somebody closer to a Clemens or Jermaine Johnson size, like somebody who would model like Aiden Hutchinson, from a profile, like a size profile. So it's tough. Where would you take edge?
There isn't an edge player I don't think I would want to take at 7 because Green is a monster, as K2M points out. At 17 sacks at Marshall, production awesome. Tools, bend, get off, great. solid play strength for his size. You know, some of the key like 3-cone and stuff that has a high correlation to success. Sure. I just think that there is that chance that he's a designated pass rusher.
Mhm.
And I think when I'm just weighing the trade-offs of that pick, and even the guys who fit the Glenn mold, Shamar Stewart, Micah Williams, I would, if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals or the Seattle Seahawks, all the way down to the Detroit Lions, the Baltimore Ravens, love betting on those guys at those spots in the draft. But I think for this team, picking at 7, there's not really an edge I'm smitten with. Second round, oh yeah, you could sell me on Nick Scorton. You could sell me on Landon Jackson. You could sell me on Jared Ivey, maybe in the third round, who's still got that JFM. You could sell me on, but I think, man, probably by the 4th round, I would definitely want one.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, it's all about trade-offs. Again, as Max points out, like, you still wouldn't, if you take Warren, you still wouldn't have like another receiver who can beat press when a team goes cover 1. Yeah, dude, no doubt about it. Like, there are going to be, no matter what this team does, there are going to be massively frustrating things about watching the 2025 Jets and their personnel. There's just no way around it. So it's like, what trade-offs are you willing to make, right?
Right. I've used this analogy so many times with the Jets and like team building. You want to have more people throwing water out of the boat than you have holes in the boat. I'm not sure how you feel about it right now, but I feel like the Jets have equal amount of holes as they do water throwers. And like right now, you really have to thread the needle to plug up those holes and make it so that your boat can stay afloat. So like I don't know how you feel about it, but like it does make it hard where if you miss on offensive tackle in the first round, or like it's not like it's a reach pick at any of these picks, like there's a chance that you're going to have a major flaw going into the season. And there's flaws on every team, don't get me wrong, but major flaws I don't want to see. Like I don't want to see Jeremy Ruckert tight end 1 or even competing for tight end 1. So
right. And I think the only thing that makes me have a lean towards certain positions is because you're 100% correct that the Jets are going to be starting backups and role players at multiple positions this year. I don't see a way out of that, and probably a couple important positions. But also there are good teams who go into the season kind of with some holes and just say, hey, this guy we take in round 4 is going to play there and he's going to freaking figure it out. And they do that. I remember the Bills doing with Spencer Brown. I'm like, how are they still playing this guy? How have they not replaced him? He's limiting their whole offense. And then by year 3, it clicks and Spencer Brown gets an extension and they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. Good teams just say, nope, we're taking you, we're playing you there, and you're going to freaking figure it out. And we're going to deal with your growing pains. And you're not going to have to sit on the bench the entire season behind Irv Charles if you made a fumble on one play against the Houston Texans on Halloween. Right. So hopefully the Jets can become one of those teams. But what the hell but the only thing is we're doing the Fields experiment, so I don't want to leave the cupboard completely barren for him. Right. So that's the only reason why I have a bias towards like particularly tight end, just because I think the way that this offense is going to run, it's really hard to imagine him having success with the way the tight end room specifically is currently built. But other than that, they just gotta get talent. They just need talent.
And K22M says if all the holes are needle size, then it would help. And, it depends on how big the holes are. I would say, even though I am an advocate for trench over weapon, I would say the hole at tight end is just as large, if not larger, than right tackle, because you do have a core of 4 who I would value over Ruckert if needed to start. So they at least have a placeholder there, but you still want to upgrade. So like say you do take Tyler Warren, you plug up that tight end hole, and then you come back in round 4 like I laid out, and you get Charles Grant, who's not a great prospect, small school guy, a ton of projection there, but then the combination of a core of 4 and Charles Grant can kind of fill that hole for you. And, so it does depend on the size of the hole and how you would value it. That's why I was more asking. And to go back with edge, like I kind of agree with you. You can get away with waiting till like round 3, maybe round 4, because I look at a guy, I was watching him earlier when I was watching the TCU wide receivers, Elijah Roberts from Southern Methodist.
Yeah, he's an edge, right?
Yeah, he's the
isn't
edge.
Isn't he a JFM variant or no? He's big.
He's
isn't he?
He's 6'3" and 5/8, 285 pounds, 82 and a half inch wingspan. Just, tons to like. He had a really crushing strip sack on the TCU quarterback. I don't even know his name. He's honestly trash, and it was really hard to watch the TCU wide receivers because of it. But Elijah Roberts stuck out to me, and then another guy in round 3 who I actually mocked last week with Glenn on our show was JT Tumalau from Ohio State, who's 6'4", 265 with 82+ inch wingspan. So
I think a couple edge players too, because it's Sawyer across from him, right? Too.
Yeah,
right?
Sawyer, and he's probably dropping a little bit more in the power rankings, I would assume. I think he's probably closer to a day 3 guy, but they'll probably both go on day 2 just based on the program that they went to, the position that they play is premium. So yeah, both of those guys should be drafted within the top 125.
Yeah, see, second round just seems like a good spot to get a defensive lineman in general. And honestly, I think if they're going to take a day 2 defensive lineman, I don't know, man. I'd almost rather it be an edge that can kick inside on obvious passing situations. And then maybe in like the 5th round, you just take your 2-gapping rotational 1 tech.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I just think the ability to get an edge player that's going to give you some juice to supplement your pass rush, where in this class, like you can, and I know it's the dumbest thing in the world just to say like take this specific player at this specific spot because I know he's going to be there. I know he's going to be good. With that said, take CJ West in rounds, 4 or 5. Take that Puna. If there's Puna forward type of defensive interior player, if there's a spot you could wait on in this draft and get a quality player, because again, I would love to take a Dexter Lawrence and put him next to the Quinnen Williams, but relative to the team's needs, if they can get what Derek Nottie was in like 2020, if they can get that player in the 5th round, that's fine. That was fine enough for Kansas City throughout their whole dynasty. So that'd be fine. So I'd almost view the edge, like, I don't know, I might want to get an edge first, depending on how things go. There's a lot of them to like on day 2.
100%. And I was going to say, even another one, Kyle Kennard, I'm going to boost up the Gamecocks now that I'm a local kid in South Carolina. But Kyle Kennard, he's 6'4", 254, so he's a little bit smaller size than I think that they're going to target, excuse me. But somebody pointed this out on a podcast, and I didn't believe it, but I had to look it up myself. Kyle Kennard won the Bronco Nagurski Award for the nation's top defensive player. I don't think he deserved it, but apparently offensive coordinators stayed up at night due to Kyle Kennard. So he's just another edge player in that 3 to 4 round range that I think could be pretty intriguing. Obviously a little bit smaller, like I said, 254, but
I mean, he's just like normal size. He's not just like the giant that the Lions have liked, but that's plenty good enough.
Yeah, he's not Will McDonald 237.
Right. He did have 10 sacks last year. Definitely seems like he offers you a lot more against the pass than the run. But yeah, man,
sure.
I mean, you're talking 3rd round. I'm down. We need some help in the old trenches. Did we talk about Jade Baron? Yeah, we did.
We did.
We covered.
We want to get it out of our heads so quick that we forgot, but we did.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. Might grab Zadarius Smith, as I've been talking about. Yeah, I do wonder, so I do have Tyron Smith trepidations where when the Jets signed Tyron Smith, I was like, all right, man, maybe this guy only gives us 10, 11 games, but the games he does give us, he's going to play really, really well. And ironically, I don't think they shut him down eventually just because he was kind of washed, but he was out there when they needed him to be out there, but he just was terrible. So Zadarius Smith, I mean, he had 10 sacks and like 60+ pressures and seemed like he was okay against the run. So I don't know if his stats are a complete lie, because it's shocking to me he's still a free agent. So maybe teams are looking at his film and they can sense a precipitous drop-off coming, like we've seen with, Dalvin Cook and Tyron Smith, and we could go on and on and on. But at least with Zadarius Smith, you're saying, okay, here's what he did. Here's what he did last year. Here's what he did like a few months ago. Not, he's 3 years removed and an ACL and a Tommy John and like a black eye ago, he was an all-pro. Like if you get the player he was last year, that would be the best edge on our team, considering Jermaine has a torn Achilles and Will McDonald is so far been one-dimensional in his career. So Smith is definitely a post-draft guy where maybe they spin the block and call him, especially because if they sign him post-draft, it doesn't mess up your comp pick formula. He'd be a nice fit. And obviously he knows Glenn.
I was going to say, I think that's a part of it too, is the comp pick formula. Like he doesn't go into it after the draft. So I think teams are also waiting on that too. So it's going to be interesting. He doesn't fit your John Simpson rule, but you have to break.
No, he's a violation. Well, you get one exception on either side of the ball. It's the Morgan Moses amendment to the John Simpson rule. So you get one on either side of the ball.
Somebody's knocking at my door. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, you're good, man. Maybe it is John Simpson. Or maybe he already has an agreement in place with his former DC. Yeah, maybe he was like, hey, man, we want to sign you, but we don't want to mess up our comp pick formula. That'd be very courteous of Zadarius Smith if he was waiting on his signing bonus and all that to appease the Jets comp pick gods. Yeah, but he'd be a nice fit, especially if the Jets don't come away with an edge, within their first 3-4 picks. Zadarius Smith definitely a very good fit for the team. Josiah Stewart Love. There's so many defensive linemen in this class. It's hard to keep track of. So Michigan hadn't really looked into him. Where is he projected to go? He looks smaller, 6'1", 245. Okay, so his run defense analytics are good. Did he play off ball? No, he's just in the straight up edge rusher. Played a couple of snaps off ball. Where is he projected to go? See, but again, if he's identified as a pass rusher, which if he's not, he is he's an outlier in size. He's like built like Hassan Reddick. So I just think if the Jets are going to draft another edge rusher, specifically in their first 4 rounds or so, it's probably going to be somebody who they feel like can start in base.
Sorry about that.
Was it John Simpson?
No, it was we have trash service here, and he remembered that I needed a new trash can. Mine had a crack in it, so he brought me a new can, and he just wanted to make sure it was me that requested the new trash can.
I reminds me, I have to request a new trash. Well, somebody
scared the hell out of me, dude, because nobody knows where I live. Nobody knocks on my door.
I know. Whenever we live on a dead end too, so whenever somebody rings the doorbell, it's Sebastian Maniscalco, that comedian. He has a bit about that. It's pretty funny how when in maybe the 80s or 70s when someone rang your doorbell, it was an exciting thing, and you'd run over and be someone who was visiting, and you'd break out crumb cake or whatever. But now when someone rings your doorbell, everybody hits the floor, and it's get the gun. So yeah, it's
seriously
not cool. Because
I heard the Josiah stuff. Pass rush win rate off the charts. Probably an outlier DPR type, but there's things to like about his trade.
Where are we drafted? Where is he getting drafted though? Where do you think?
I don't know. PFF, and I hate using it as the Bible, but I feel like people have gotten locked in. Probably
I like PFF, man. PFF gets way too much hate. Respect Trevor Sycamore.
No. I love Trevor, but it's just it's only
unless he goes against my agenda, then it's trash. Of course.
Of course. It's his rankings, and it's his personal rankings that make up the big board on PFF. So instead of just living by it, I just changed the randomness, slider on the mock draft just a hair to more random so that it doesn't stay true to his board. But I feel like Josiah has probably been taken in round 3 or 4.
Okay.
So that means he'll probably be in contention anywhere, starting on late day 2. I saw a tweet, and I couldn't remember who it was from. The quality of player from 10 to 32 is universally deemed about the same. So I think it was actually from Adam Schefter's Intel article. So if that's the case, and the picks from 10 to 32 are, splitting hairs, there's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of I like this guy, and that's my flavor in the first round and top of the second round specifically. So it's going to be very different than the PFF, I guess, projections go.
Okay, that's interesting. Sycamore doesn't like Membu. I think he has him at 11 or 12.
Well, doesn't hate him.
Yeah, I think he has Will Campbell as offensive lineman 1 for sure.
Yeah, but not tackle 1.
So I actually want to throw on Chris Sims had an interesting mock draft. I get so mock drafted out, but then once draft week comes, like I get the excitement back. Like now I'm ready to listen to a lot of draft content the next 3 days. But like the past 2 weeks, like once April hits, it's like, oh my gosh, just bring on the draft. But here's his first 7, and I really am interested to see what the Jets could do if the board falls this way, which isn't crazy, I don't think. I'll throw it up on the screen. So he's got, let's put our ugly mugs down here. So he's got Ward 1, Hunter, Carter, Campbell, Graham. So very chalk 1 through 5, Arma Membu to the Raiders. That is a very realistic first 6. Now, I think you're thinking here maybe Tyler Warren. That's probably what I would do in this spot. Whatever. That's what I would do, man. I know tight end, top, whatever. I get it. It's not without risk. That's probably what I would do. But if the Jets just feel like we're just not going to take a tight end top 10, that's just not in our DNA. I mean, he's got Kelvin Banks Jr. here, and I think that would probably be a very realistic pivot at this point if the top 2 offensive linemen are gone, Mason Graham is gone, and they're not in love with Tyler Warren. I mean, I'd be okay with Kelvin Banks over any of the defensive players not named Graham, and honestly, I would get it over McMillan. It's not very sexy, but I don't know. In this spot, who are you taking? Well, you're taking Shamar probably.
Yeah, I would probably take Shamar. But that's just me being, I guess.
What do you think the Jets would do?
I think they would take Banks or Warren. I don't know. I mean, they're doing just so much work on Tyler Warren that I don't know if it's like we want to throw all our eggs into this basket, and maybe that's the case, but I would probably prioritize Shamar and then Banks. And then I know it's going to get a lot of controversy, but I would take Kenneth Grant over Tyler Warren. I would just do it. If I'm sticking and picking, I would take a defensive interior who can get after the quarterback rather than a tight end. So I know it's going to get a lot of hate, but yeah, I would take plenty of trench players over Tyler Warren at this pick.
I mean, I don't know if I've dug into Kenneth Grant enough to like fervently disagree. And again, if what NFL teams are saying is that they feel like that talent crop is similar from 10 to whatever, which when I do mock drafts, I kind of do run into that where I'll do mock drafts for the first round or first and second round. And I'm like, oh, this player could make sense at 8 to the Panthers or could slide to 32 to the Eagles, right? Like that, like Micah Williams is that, so yes. I can't push back too hard. Got to keep an open mind. Again, none of the names we've said, I don't think we'll ever hear more of a shock than Will McDonald because I swear he was never mentioned once in any of my streams or whatever. He was never mentioned once. And it's not as though he's Lawrence Taylor, but I'm pretty happy we have a 10 sack, 60 pressure edge who we're hoping gets better as a run defender in his second year as a full-time starter. And people move the goalpost so far, man.
Oh,
he was Vernon Golston. And now he gets 10 sacks and 60 pressures in his first year as a starter. And it's like, but the run defense. And it's like, bro, I don't know. But
it's never gonna be.
He's better than Broderick Jones. I still think hindsight.
Oh yeah, and he's better than Lucas Van Ness, who they took.
He is.
In the pick.
Probably not as good as JSN, but
no.
You just get good players, man. You just get good players. Like I don't think. Look, the first round hasn't been the Jets' issue. The first round wasn't Joe Douglas's issue. I mean, Mekhi Becton got injured and wasn't very good. Shit happens, but his hit rate in the first round was on par with like successful GMs. But then once you got to like we have been cursed, dude, in the third and fourth round, particularly because once you get to rounds 5, 6, and 7, it's a little bit more house money, right? Yeah, sure. But you gotta get players in rounds 3 and 4. And the last player that we took in rounds 3 or 4, who was a multiple year starter for the team, was Jordan Jenkins.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So I mean, the names, man, it's like Ardarius Stewart and Malachi Corley, who maybe could be one, and Oh my goodness, it is an Ashton Davis
Yep.
and I mean,
Michael P. Ryan.
Michael Pirine, the Jabari Zuniga, Cam Clark, Michael Clemens, Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, Jeremy Ruckert. Man, it's a tough one. Trading them for Hassan Reddick, trading them for Devontae Adams for 10 games. Like, if you look at this, the reason at the third and fourth round of what they've resulted in, James Morgan. Ooh, bro, it's so bad, man. It's so bad.
Bleak.
And it's coaching too, right? Obviously, because
Sure.
like, dude, there's no way, even by chance, you couldn't pick that many terrible players. Like, I'm sure if Jeremy Rucker went to the Chiefs, he could be a decent blocking tight end number 2. But he had, he got worse. He like regressed.
Yeah,
because it's just how our offensive coaching has been. But
yeah, it's imperative that these guys get off on the right foot, which is why I play devil's advocate with myself for Shamar Stewart, because you probably want a safer pick at pick 7 with, the very first pick of your regime, because we saw how Mekhi Becton got tied to Joe Douglas forever, essentially. So it is important to hit on that very first pick. So maybe they do feel like a guy like Tyler Warren has the highest floor, and he does play a role, fills a need, does all those things, plays on the side of the ball that scores more points, that looks flashy, that puts asses in seats. So, yeah, I'm trying to keep myself open for the next 3 days, but, like, who to you is that guy that's like the Will McDonald? Like, we haven't talked about him at all. If they pick him, it would be a complete shock, but maybe it turns out to be a good pick. Like, I think it would be like if they took a safety like Malachi Starks or Nicky Manwari.
Oh, man.
Like, we'd be like, what the hell are we doing? But then in 2 years, we're like, Kerry Rhodes, is that you? Is that our boy?
Man, that would be a tough sell if they took a defensive back. I think edge would be the most likely of the shock picks, like a Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Jalen Walker, one of those.
Yeah. But it'd be fun. It'd be fun as hell.
Yeah, and they did meet. I believe they met with all 3 of those players actually. And Michael and the part of the Schefter buzz in that article was that Michael is very highly regarded in league circles. And Todd McShay actually said, a team showed me their draft board and he was number 6. I'm like, bro, nobody showed you their draft board on Monday before the draft. Like, that's crazy.
I mean, Joe Douglas went fishing and Joe Douglas showed him his draft board.
Yeah, well, Robert Saleh would take Michael Williams. That we no doubt about that. But Saleh's
big board is only defensive line.
Yeah, it's Michael Williams 1, Shamar Stewart 2, and
Jalen
like
3.
Omar Norman Lott is like number 6.
Walter Nolan, Jared Ivey.
Yeah, Walter Nolan is pretty nasty though, man. We don't need that.
He might end up a 49er at 11, man. That would be a good fit.
Oh, I could see that. He'd replace Javon Hargrave nicely, but that would probably be my. Yeah. Or, I mean, is there a way is there a way to take Loveland
for the 49ers? Oh, that'd be fun.
Oh, the Jets.
Oh, the Jets take Love. Yeah, there's a world. I mean, there's so split opinions on the tight end class. Maybe the Jets aren't as split as the world is, but I feel like I'm seeing like 55% of the world Tyler Warren, tight end 1, and then 45% is Colston Loveland, tight end 1.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think they're both good. They're both worthy of being taken in the first round. I think Warren is better, and I do think that every year as the draft gets closer, it's always a talking point of the guy who's been number 1 for so long. People want to knock him off. Like, I remember Brett Kallman famously last year, who he makes awesome videos, no shade or anything like that. But he was starting the week before the draft. He was like, "Hey, JT Sanders isn't that far off from Brock Bowers." And it's like, all right, let's everyone take a breath. So, but Loveland is nice, man. Loveland is smooth. Loveland is he's just, I don't know what the comp for him would be. He wins how a wide receiver wins. There's routes where they just line him up as an X receiver and he gets wins against press coverage. I don't know how much that would work in the NFL. But I think he separates a little bit better. I think he has better awareness in terms of where he is in zone. I think he maximizes his catch radius better than Warren because Warren is more of a body catcher and Loveland catches with his hands. I think Warren and Loveland is a better blocker than he's given credit for, but Warren, like, you can't discount him having freaking double the yards. I know that Loveland was injured. They had bad quarterback play in Michigan, all that stuff. But Loveland, I think, Warren has a frame to develop into a better inline blocker and is better as a yak player and is stronger at the catch point and contested catch opportunities and just so strong through contact, like as a route runner. He's not separating, but he's just ripping. He wins. He wins how Gronk won. I'm not saying he's Gronk. I'm not saying he is Gronk. I'm just saying that is how he got his wins at the collegiate level. So I think the pro comp for Warren would be like Mark Andrews, I think.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. I think the physicality and the strength profile of Tyler Warren project him out to be a better blocker than Colston Loveland. And I mean, Loveland is your, athletic F type more so than your inline Y type. So it really comes down to flavor, but I agree with your assessment as to where Warren is better and then where Loveland is better.
Max says Loveland will be a top 5 tight end for Justin Herbert by the time he's Warren's current age. As possible, man. The age is another notch against Warren.
Yeah, but again, it goes with like floor and ceiling. Like, do you want the safer pick or do you want the more projection pick that like could really boom for you and make you look great? So I think the fact that it's their very first pick of the regime makes it that much more intriguing.
Yeah, I think I think both of the tight ends have a decent floor too. I think they're both gonna be pretty good.
Yeah. Again, it just depends on what you're asking your tight end to do in your offense is heavily gonna dictate which way you go. And I think the way the Jets have been talking and building their team, it's probably more of the Tyler Warren route, if anything.
Yeah, I think that Warren offers a lot of alignment versatility. I do think that he is. It's interesting to me that I don't know if it matters in terms of his value, but that is many people I talk to about Warren assume he will be used significantly differently than how he dominated his last year at Penn State. And my question would be like, why the hell would you do that? Like, no, hear me out. We're going to take him. He was a chess piece. He moved around. He was a wing back, an H-back. He played in the slot like over 50% of his snaps. He played some X receiver. He moonlighted as a blocker sometimes, chipped in as a move blocker, mauling like slot corners when you get to dictate the personnel. Scratch all that. He's going to play in line and get his nose dirty, and he's going to be, George Kittle, or he's going to be a tight end from 1998. Why the hell would you do that? Why would you watch Tyler Warren and that be your takeaway of how to use him? Makes very little sense to me. To me, he should be moved all over. Honestly, he should be used the way the Raiders use Brock Bowers. He's not as good, but that's the way I would use him stylistically. Well, I don't know.
I agree. Maybe a little bit more hand in the dirt in terms of like a percentage standpoint, but yeah, I agree. I think that's where it would best suit him based on how he played in college. I don't know if you want to wrap with this, but I shared a screen of a full round 1 mock. I broke down like guessing like at each position. I wanted to like go by each position and say, okay, this is how many at this position I think are going to get drafted, and I tried to dictate my first round off of that. So I'll just go down the positions. 3 quarterbacks, 1 running back, 2 wideouts, 7 offensive linemen, 2 tight ends, so for a total of 15 offense, 12 defensive line, 1 linebacker, 3 corners, and 1 safety for a total of 17 defense. And the only, disclaimer I'll put in there is Jalen Walker is listed as a linebacker, but I included him in my 12 defensive linemen. So tried to do it as best I could, predicting the positional breakdowns, because I do think we'll see 3 quarterbacks in the first round now.
Yeah, the betting odds love Milroe in the first round.
He's invited to the draft, so they would, likely think that he's going to get his name called. And
I think Cleveland or New York jumps up in the late first round.
Yeah, I had both of them doing that. Giants at 30 for Shedeur, and then the Browns at 31 for Dart. But it could also be Milroe as well. it was hard to find where the quarterbacks were going to trade up specifically, but 30 and 31, it's not like a huge, jump up from where they were at the top of the second round to get their guys, get that 5th-year option as well. So, looks like we lost Buffalo right at the end of our show. So I'm not sure. I'm sure the chat can see this. I'm sure the Browns are picking at 31 because they traded up in this situation that I had them. I wanted to pair a quarterback with Travis Hunter at 2, assuming that they play him at cornerback full time and a package or a couple packages for him on offense as wide receiver. They're going to need a quarterback at some point, so I had them trading up. This could be Dart, this could be Milrow, kind of interchangeable, but I do think the Giants at some point trade up and they would be targeting Shadur Sanders because I feel like there's, smoke that we talked about at the top of the show that he could be drafted as high as 3 to the Giants. And, the fall of Abdul Carter would begin at that point, who's already Abdul Carter's posting, Taylor Lawrence content on his X account, calling himself the next 56 or comparing himself to Taylor Lawrence in that situation. Yeah, I had Shadur falling to 30, only because, like I said, it's hard to predict where I think the quarterbacks are going to come off the board. Maybe, Pittsburgh trades out and somebody trades up with Pittsburgh to get a quarterback at 21. But I was more just trying to follow the positional breakdown model that I was, working with here to say that 3 quarterbacks are going. Maybe the Saints even take Jackson Dart at 9 as QB2, and then somebody trades up, or Pittsburgh stays and takes Shadur at 21, even though there's a bit of smoke saying that Pittsburgh doesn't want to take Shadur at 21, but that could be some posturing there too. So it was kind of hard to slot where the quarterbacks were going to go. Let's see if we got Buffalo back. We got part of his screen, but we don't see him or hear him. Saints need a wideout. Yeah, I had the Saints. Buffalo Jeff fan is with Aaron Rodgers in the darkness retreat currently, trying to navigate his way out. See you guys next week. I guess we're just going to stay live until Buffalo comes back next week. So we're in for the marathon show on BJF's YouTube channel. No, I'm just kidding. We'll give it a couple minutes and see what he wants me to do. Maybe I can close out the show for him. Saints need a wideout. Sure. Saints do need a wideout. Who did I have them taking? Yeah, Teteroa. That's perfect. I think that's a good spot for them. All right. Buffalo saying we can close.